Welcome back to another episode of Chocobo Dash. I'm one of your hosts, Elliot Lefebvre.
And I'm your other host, Nell Celestine.
Got a fair bit of stuff to talk about, not quite as much as I think we would have hoped for from the Tokyo Game Show, but we've still gotten a fair amount of new information about 2.4 and some information about what's coming next. So without further ado, let's start off by talking about one of the things that was revealed while we were, or that we saw from the Tokyo Game Show, the Eorzean census.
That was actually a pretty interesting chunk of information. Several dungeons, which was most popular, how many times certain ones have been run, the breakdown of male to female characters, the breakdown of different races. But the one that stood out to me was obviously how many dungeons have been run in specific dungeons, because Wanderer's Palace apparently smashed everything else by more than double.
Yeah, Wanderer's Palace was up there. Now, I think part of that was, you know, we remember back at 2.0, there was a period where Wanderer's Palace was basically what you ran over and over. You just queued up for Wanderer's Palace, and then you queued up for Wanderer's Palace again, because it was the most efficient way to get tomestones of mythology and philosophy back when I was a thing.
Oh my god, philosophy tomes, that's going back a bit.
I know, how about, I still have that space on my current season. It's like, hi, hey there, you're gone.
There was some other interesting things, like the total amount of gil across all characters on all servers. That was a ridiculous number.
Yeah, but as some people did the math, because obviously the thing is that we have never gotten a firm number of exactly how many players we have. The one number that we've gotten is that there are 2 million registered accounts, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. That could mean 2 million registered accounts and 10 people who are still actually playing. Note, I'm pretty sure there are more than 10 people playing.
True, and there was a lot of hours put into the game already. I mean, 823 million hours. That's more than 90,000 years.
But, you know, if you divide it up by a guess number, you divide it by the number of users, you get, you know, about, if you assume 1 million players, that's about 800 hours per player, which is about, you know, over the course of a year, a couple hours a day, you know, within reason.
Yeah, but these are still really impressive numbers.
No, they're big numbers, and they're showing that, you know, no matter how many people are or aren't playing, the people who are playing are definitely playing. Personally, the thing that I found most interesting was the way that the tank and healer breakdowns have changed between 2013 and 2014.
The fact that there's more warrior tanks.
Yep. Warriors got a big bump, but I was also interested to see how few people were playing Scholar at launch.
Yeah, I mean, only 19% at launch, now it's 43%. When you think about it, they actually complement each other rather well, so it's usually better to take one of each when having to take 8 people than to have 2 white mages or 2 scholars.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting setup. It's also interesting to note that if you look at the role distribution at the higher end, that healers and tanks have actually shrunk in their overall distribution. We've actually seen, at this point, we have more DPS, proportionally speaking, than we did back in 2013.
Now, the question comes to mind is, are they counting this across all characters, or are they counting this as, you know, people that only do dungeons on tanks, or only do dungeons on healers? Because if they're going by across all character jobs, then it's going to be kind of a disproportionate number, because there's way more DPS classes than there are healers and tanks.
Most of the racial distributions actually remained very similar. The biggest switch was Japanese players went from a roughly even gender distribution to 57% female, 43% male, which I thought was very interesting.
True. Now, what about the Grand Company breakdowns? They didn't change very much at all. I mean, Twin Adder only went up 1% and Immortal Flames went down 1%, but Maelstrom stayed pretty much solid.
I think that's because a lot of people are intimidated by Merrill because she is the best free company leader.
I suppose I am part of the Maelstrom as well, so I do encourage people to check it out. Now, what about glamored items? What did you think of that list?
I didn't really know quite how to break that one down. Just like, it's interesting, but I don't know how much. We kind of need to see more of, more gear that's designed for glamour before you can really get a good idea how much these things are used. Right now, we're still just starting to get like waves of things that are used for glamour and items that aren't useful except for glamoring purposes. So obviously the pure vanity clothes are going to be up there in terms of things that people want to put on their characters. Also the fact that, skirts and the like were some of the first things that people put on their characters. Sounds about right.
All right. Was there anything else from the census that stood out?
No, I think that was most of, a lot of various statistical bits and pieces here and there. Interesting to look at. Some of it is what you'd expect if you've been playing the game for a while. Some of it is really unexpected. And some of it makes sense when you think about it, but probably didn't immediately spring to mind, such as the Wanderer's Palace figure.
Alrighty then, we're going to take a break from the census and let's jump into some of the more visual stuff that we were actually able to take a peek at.
Let's start with something that's near and dear to my heart, obviously. We got to see Ninja in action a little bit. Not extensively, but we did see it.
Now, this isn't the first time we've seen Ninja in action, but we got to see a little bit more detail this time.
We also heard a little bit more about mechanical details, including the fact that poisons are not going to be a part they are not simply going to be a dot effect. So if you were thinking that poisons were just going to apply a little more damage over time, it looks like they're going to have a more constant buff effect overall.
Well, that's going to be very useful, and I'm really hoping that the way that they go with this job class is it has its own unique feel, but it's not at the same time incredibly limiting to player base. Like, make it accessible, but don't make it insanely difficult to use.
It definitely looks like it's going to be interesting to learn all of the various ninja hand motions, because we've seen those use various combinations. Still don't have a very clear picture of how they fit together, but they definitely seem to be able to produce a variety of effects. Based on this footage and the last bit of ninja we saw, it looks like they apply some sort of elemental debuff, much like what ninja abilities did back in Final Fantasy XI. So that would be my guess, but...
Well, it's either an elemental debuff or an elemental buff, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that caught my eye was they showed the arena for Shiva, and the way that Yoshida was able to pan out as much as he did, which is much, much farther than any of us as players are going to be able to pan out. But the level of detail in everything, all the way outside of that zone, like, it's incredible.
No, there's a lot of interesting stuff on display there. The layout of the arena was also interesting because it's a two-tiered arena. You have the central raised dais, and then you have a ring that you could be knocked into but get back up. I wonder, actually, if
I don't think you can get knocked down, because it looked from, like, in the video, Yoshi tried to jump off the side but couldn't.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if you might actually run down, because there are stairs there so you can get up and down. I wonder if one of the mechanics may be that you, like, when, like, every primal has its own, big attack, like Judgment Bolt, Tidal Wave, Earthen Fury. I wonder if part of the mechanism for avoiding Shiva's big attack will be to run into the lower level before it goes off.
Well, if it's Shiva's big attack, you don't need to worry about spoilers. It's the same one that's going to be in every Final Fantasy. Shiva's typical, Shiva's known as her namesake basically brings about the spell Diamond Dust. So, just keep an eye out for, if you see that, know that you're either going to survive it or you're boned.
Yep, that is your halfway mark. That okay, well, here's where everything gets real.
Okay, now they also showed off 3 new dungeons, which kind of makes me think. First off, there's that new snow one. What's it called? I can't remember. Snowcloak?
Yes.
That looks really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact like they showed like an ice golem for one. I thought that was pretty clever for pretty much almost a retexture. But the overall the dungeon has a unique feel to it, and obviously is going to play up with the whole Shiva aspect.
We also got the Sastasha hard mode, and we didn't see a whole lot of what that's going to look like or how that's going to thematically tie in with other things that are going on. It was very much more focused on the sort of caverns that dotted La Nocia back in 1.0. So much like the opening of Sastasha rather than the later portions of it. I did find it interesting that this means that all of the first 3 dungeons of the game, Sastasha, Tamtara, and Copperbell, will all now have a hard mode.
And then what was... Oh, God. I lost my...
Sunken
Temple of
Car.
crap. Sunken Temple of... Oh, God, no. So essentially, they changed
Sunken Temple of DPS, kill the bees!
Sunken Temple of... Oh, God, no. All they did was bring back bees.
Sunken Temple of you will die at the first boss over and over, even if you are max level.
Oh, God. That dungeon was even hard before... That dungeon was hard before they nerfed it for the storyline. So I'm assuming that they probably just went, okay, we're going to use these mechanics again.
The funny thing is that for those of you, and I'm guessing all of you have done it, Sunken Temple is not actually all that hard, as long as you have people who pay attention to the handful of things that you're supposed to do. Like, the first boss is the only real speed bump there, and as long as people are paying attention, you can make it through the dungeon without too much of a problem. But when someone isn't paying attention, then Final Sting is going off everywhere, and people are dropping like flies.
Final Sting, Doom Gaze, Final Sting, there's your party.
Yep.
Now, this brings to mind a question I had. There is 3 dungeons that don't have a hard mode yet. Does this mean that the next patch, all 3 of them are going to get a hard mode? Or only 2 of them, and then we're not going to get a hard mode again until the expansion?
Well, I guess that depends on, like, if I had to guess a dungeon that is not going to get a hard mode before the expansion, and possibly not ever, I honestly would pick 1,000 Moths.
Really?
Well, here's my reasoning. Visually, 1,000 Moths is very similar to Tamtara. They're both very visually similar dungeons. Not identical, but until the very end of Todoroki, you are looking at more or less the same sort of Redanian cellar motif as you're looking at all the way through Tamtara. Now, Tamtara's hard mode, obviously, really, just through creative use of lighting and enemies, really changed the feel of the whole dungeon. But
beautifully done, I might add.
Oh, yes. And I think everyone will agree that Tamtara is one of the most engaging dungeons in that regard. But, I don't know. I would not be surprised if we do not see a Todorak hard mode. I also wouldn't be surprised if we did not see an Aurum Vale hard mode.
What about Cutter's Cry?
Cutter's Cry, I could see Cutter's Cry getting a hard mode. I can see either Todorock or Aurum Vale not getting one. In Aurum Vale's case, it's mostly because it's so close to 50 anyway that they might just say, the designers might just say, nobody really wants to see that again. If you just hit 50, or you remember that, we don't need to push that anymore. I don't think that the next patch will have nothing but hard modes, personally, because I think they've really made a push to try and include something novel in every patch. But maybe we will just get 3 hard mode dungeons.
Well, the reason why I asked that is because if there was 4 dungeons still left to do, I could see them doing like another quality of life patch down the road with the 2 new dungeons, or those 2 dungeons and a new one, just to tide us over till an expansion. But with it only being 3, that's what's like, well, if we're getting 3 dungeons a patch.
Which is and that is actually something I had not thought about, because I had not been keeping perhaps as close track as I should have of which dungeons we've seen hard modes of and which ones we have not. But
So
that
I
is a good point.
really don't think they're going to do Pharaoh Serious hard mode. Then once we have the level 50 dungeons, they're not going to hard mode the level 50 dungeons. They're already designed for level 50.
Also, the idea of a hard mode Pharaoh Serious. That would be another case of, you know what, we're just going to bring back the original version of this dungeon. No other changes.
It's funny.
Okay, healer, please, for the last time, when someone gets Siren's debuff, heal them, please.
Nope, DPS harder. Why can't I move? There's something attacking me.
Moving along! Moving along, let's talk about what we've learned about FanFest. There is currently a thread up for people to ask questions for the letter from the producer live at the Las Vegas FanFest. And I think it's interesting because it tacitly states that we are not going to be getting patch 2.4 until after the Las Vegas FanFest.
Well, I am both for and against that, because it's like, yes, okay, I have an extra chance to catch up on some stuff. But at the same time, it's like, no, because then that means I can't test drive Ninja at FanFest.
Yeah, I'm thinking you'll be able to test drive Ninja at FanFest. Honestly, my prediction, and I'm saying this now, so if I'm right or wrong, we can, laugh at me or praise me. I'm predicting that we're going to see 2.4 go live on the 21st of October. So right after FanFest.
So basically the day that I fly back.
Pretty much, yeah. Because here is what I'm thinking. Because we know that one of the topics, vague though it is that, people will be asking questions about 2.4, about the new tomestones, the new dungeons, about Ninja, and about the future of Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I don't know about you, but that says we can't technically tell you that you can ask about the expansion, but it's the expansion. I'm not saying it was Alien.
I know. But at the same time, I don't feel kind of depressed if the focal point of FanFest is 2.4.
That's my other thing. I'm thinking at FanFest, Yoshida's going to talk a bit about 2.4, which will be coming out, the week after people get back from Las Vegas, and we'll be revealing the expansion. Like, this is where we're going. Like, Final Fantasy XIV, I don't know, Warlords of Draenor. There we go.
No.
So,
no. You take that and you cram it back where that came from.
I'm just using a name here. Okay, fine. Final Fantasy XIV, Treasures of Odd Urgen. There we go.
I can live with that because I like that expansion, and now I'm going to be roasted alive.
I loved Odd Urgen. Odd Urgen is my favorite expansion. Anyone who says Chains of Promethea will be banned. No.
Well, screw you. I'm going to set you on fire now.
But
get off my show.
It's my show too now. Anyway, moving along. So at Las Vegas, we'll hear what the expansion is, and we'll hear about 2.4. At the European Fan Fest, we're going to hear more about the expansion, and we're going to hear a bit about 2.5. And then in the Japanese Fan Fest, we'll hear more about 2.45, which will probably be coming out around that point. And we'll hear more about the expansion and more about 2.5 and more about, the end of that particular update cycle. So I'm thinking if we get 2.4 right after FanFest, there's enough room for people to ask questions about things they know about, and also enough room for people to ask questions about the future without it stepping on the toes of the expansion announcement or all being about things that we've already heard, if that makes any sense.
No, that does make perfect sense. I'm really hoping that the focal point of the FanFest will be the expansion, because really, it's a fan festival, and it's quite clear that this is supposed to be a big gathering for a big announcement. If this is going to be mostly talking about 2.4, I could have saved myself a bunch of cash.
Yeah, I'm not thinking they're going to be doing that. I think they've been drawing out 2.4 a little bit more, but I think I'm going to officially speculate that at FanFest you will see the expansion announcement. I don't think you will be able to play the expansion at all, but there will be like expansion trailers and features and everything announced.
One of the other things I'm guessing is they'll probably announce, without going into too much detail at this point, but I think they're going to announce with the expansion they'll mention the 2 new jobs that are coming out.
Yep, if there are 2 new jobs.
Well, they did say that there were going to be 2 new jobs for sure.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that there will be 2 new jobs, but I would not be surprised if we see more than that.
Well, okay, that's fair enough. But I mean, like, they'll probably give, like, the first impressions of the 2 new jobs to allow people to speculate and then ask questions during the next FanFest.
Yep. So that's my guess. The other thing that's interesting that we're coming up on, since we are coming up on 2.4, and I wanted to spend a little time talking about, is we know we're getting a new tombstone. We know we're getting basically the last tier of itemization. So I don't know, but I'm expecting...
Well, the last pre-expansion tier.
Yes. So I'm expecting we're going to be seeing level 130 gear. I don't think, Nell, you would disagree with that.
120 for the tombstone gear with 130 from coil. Probably the same update path as the last one.
I'm hoping not, but, you know, I'd like to think they learned their lesson because that was a terrible system, but then again... Square didn't learn their...
I'd like to suggest then that what they're going to do is they're going to have the way to upgrade the armor as something that's separate from coil and crystal tower, like something that you can only do, like, say, once a week, like a specific once a week quest to upgrade an item.
That would be interesting, but, you know, we'll see. However, what spins off from that is everyone's expecting, including me, that we're going to get a level increase with the expansion. So the question then becomes, is that 130 gear going to be the baseline going into the expansion, or is it going to be more powerful or whatever?
I'm going to go out and say it's going to be more powerful, but at the same time, it'll be baseline for the end game that comes out with that.
I think, because I kind of agree with you. I honestly think the level 51 items, the level 51 white items that people will start using in the expansion are going to be they're going to be item level 51, as opposed to doing a World of Warcraft style complete gear reset where everything in the new expansion is significantly more powerful, simply because with the expansion we're going to be looking at a lot of people who already have geared jobs, and we're going to be looking at a lot of people who will be able to start with new jobs or start playing something new. The net result is that by by just letting us get 10 more levels and then having a new baseline for endgame gear, people are going to be more easily able to get into doing the endgame stuff and start exploring that, as opposed to having to take the extra time to gear up and, having all of your old equipment be replaced, etc., etc.
Now, the only thing I would say on this is that they should make the physical level 60 gear slightly better than the item level 60 gear.
I think that's probably reasonably fair because, it's really... Oddly, it is actually really hard to get item level 60 gear at this point.
I know, but I'm using it as an example if we go up 10 physical levels. If we go up 10 physical levels and you're wearing if you're wearing level 60 gear and the person next to you is level 50 wearing I-60 gear, I think you should have a slight stat benefit over that, simply because of your levels, and 2, the gear should give a slightly higher base stats. Now, I'm not saying that whatever the physical level is should trump everything and basically reset the entire paradigm, but the new endgame gear, let's say it's physical level 60, eye level 150, just as a random numbers off the top of my head, it would still require you having to be the physical level as well as giving you the bonuses from the higher item level.
So we can't be sure, and hopefully we'll hear a little bit more about that at FanFest, but that's just something to start thinking about and talking about now.
Also, One thing else I'd like to mention about FanFest, keep your eyes out, because I will be doing my best to post up pictures from Twitter depending on how stable the internet connection is there, simply because of the fact that I don't want to pay roaming charges for internet internationally.
You crazy Canucks, eh?
But worst to worst, when I come back, Elliot and I are going to record another episode soon. Probably not as soon as I touch down, but a couple of hours after, because I'm going to be touching down at probably 7, 8 o'clock in the morning my time.
Yeah.
So we'll probably record that later in the evening, and that'll be a special episode that we'll release, and I'll release some additional video clips from the FanFest during that week. So we probably won't have a normal Chocobo Dash that week, but we'll have a whole bunch of special stuff.
Yep, so don't worry, we will not leave you in a lurch.
A lurch?
Lurch.
As long as it's not that we're leaving them in a lunch.
Why would you think... Why would lurch and lunch... They're just spelled similarly. No.
Alright then. Anything
All
else
right.
you wanted to mention?
Nope, I think it's about time for me to get up and start dancing.
Always with the dancing. Alright, as always, you can leave any positive and negative comments in the box below. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm Nell Celestine.
I'm Elliot_Lefebvre.
And if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can leave it on the official Lodestone topic in the comment box in the YouTube video, or you can send them to us on Twitter. Those are the three major places that we always do check first. We do check other places, but it can take a little bit of time for us to find and or notice them. So these are the three most direct methods. And if you have any comments or suggestions, we are always welcome to constructive criticism. It helps improve the quality of the show. I think that's pretty much it.
Yep. All right, so, as always, I'm your host, Elliot Lefebvre.
And I'm Nell Celestine.
Bidding you
Adieu.
adieu.